Rotten reads an essay. That's what I'm calling this. Part 4, can we track fitness? This is out of the essay Evolution and Illusion of Randomness. Can we track fitness? Fitness is usually taken to comprise all those traits affecting the organism's ability to survive and produce viable offspring in a particular environment. But immediately we will run into difficulties. In the 1970s, journalist Tom Bethel illustrated a small part of the problem this way. A mutation that enables a wolf to run faster than the pack only enables the wolf to survive better if he does, in fact, survive better. But such a mutation could also result in the wolf outrunning the pack a couple of times and getting first crack at the food, then abruptly dropping dead of a heart attack because the extra power in his legs placed an extra strain on his heart. Or perhaps by outrunning its pack, the wolf would be more subject to the dangers of a hoof or horn from a threatened animal, an animal that for a moment need not worry about more than one wolf. But this is hardly to begin a recital of the difficulties in assessing the fitness of a particular change. In a now classic article, Harvard geneticist and evolutionary theorist Richard Lewontin once illustrated the near impossibility of making judgments about fitness. He says, a zebra having longer leg bones that enable it to run faster than other zebras will leave more offspring only if escapes from predators is really the problem to be solved. If a slightly greater speed will really decrease the chance of being taken, and if longer leg bones do not interfere with some of the limiting psychological or physiological process. Lions may prey chiefly on old or injured zebras, likely in any case to die soon. And it is not even clear that it is speed that limits the ability of lions to catch zebras. Greater speed may cost the zebra something in feeding efficiency, and if food rather than predation is limiting, a net selective disadvantage might result from solving the wrong problem. Finally, a longer bone might break more easily or require greater developmental resources and metabolic energy to produce and maintain, or change the efficacy of the contraction of the attached muscles. Lewontin was not the only central figure in evolutionary biology who long ago recognized the difficulty in assessing the fitness or adaptive value of traits. In 1953, a paleontologist, George Gaylord Simpson, appended that the fallibility of personal judgment as to the adaptive value of particular characters, most especially when these occur in animals quite unlike any now living, is notorious. And in 1975, the geneticist Theodosis Debahansky wrote that no biologist can judge reliably which characters are useful, neutral, or harmful in a given species. One evident reason for this pessimism is that we cannot isolate traits or the mutations producing them. And if they were independent causal elements, organism-environment relationships present us with much complexity, so many possible parameters to track that apart from obvious disabling cases, there is no way to pronounce on the significance of a mutation for an organism, let alone for a population or for the future of the species. To pose just one question within the sea of unknowns, even if a mutation could in one way or another be deemed harmful to the organism in its current environment, what if the organism used this element of disharmony as the spur either to reshape its environment or to alter its own behavior, thereby creating a distinctive and advantageous niche for itself and others of its kind? I really like that. Makes a lot of sense. To see the reality of the fitness concept most clearly, look at actual attempts to explain why a given trait renders an animal more or less fit in its environment. For example, many biologists have commented on the giraffe's long neck. A predominant theory from Darwin on has been that in times of drought, a longer neck enables the giraffe to browse nearer the tops of trees beyond the reach of other animals. So any heritable changes leading to a longer neck were favorable for natural selection, rendering the animal more fit and better able to survive during drought. It sounds eminently reasonable, as such stories usually do. Problems arise only when we try to find evidence favoring this hypothesis over others. My colleague, Craig Holdridge, has summarized what he and others have found, including this. First, taller, longer-necked giraffes, being also heavier than their shorter ancestors, required more food, which counters the advantage of height. Second, the many browsing and grazing antelope species did not go extinct during droughts. So even without growing taller, the giraffe ancestor would have competed on the even terms for those lower leaves. Third, male giraffes are up to a meter taller than females. If the males would be disadvantaged by an inability to reach higher branches of the trees, why are not the females and young disadvantaged? Fourth, it turns out that females often feed at the belly height or below. And in well-studied populations of East Africa, giraffes often feed at or below shoulder level during the dry season, while the rainy season sees them feeding from the higher branches, a seasonal pattern the exact opposite of the one suggested by the above hypothesis. Another problem with the usual sort of fitness theorizing becomes evident when you consider the unity of the organism and the multifunctionality of its parts. Holdridge remarks of the elephant that it stands sometimes on its back legs and extends its trunk to reach high limbs. But no one thinks that the elephant developed its trunk as a result of selection pressures to reach higher food. The trunk develops within a complex, multifaceted, interwoven unity. It belongs to that unity, not a single isolated function. The effort to analyze out of this unity a particular trait and assign it a separate causal fitness is always artificial. This is certainly true of the giraffe, whose long neck not only allows feeding from high branches, but also raises the head to where the animal has the protection of the large field of view. The giraffe's vision is much more developed than its sense of smell. Serves as an arm for the use of the head as a club in battles between males and plays a vital role in the kind of pendulum enabling the animal's graceful galloping movements across the African plain. The unworkability of the fitness concept has been widely acknowledged. Here's a summary statement of some of the problems. The effect of any given mutation depends on the genetic background, the overall genetic constitution or genotype of the organism. So what a given mutation means will change as all the rest of the genome goes through its changes. How then do we establish the value of a particular mutation? And absent any such ability, how do we make a claim of randomness? The fitness value of any given genetic feature or combination of features can also vary with different environments. Further, the developmental responses of different genotypes to varying environments are nonlinear. No genotype gives a phenotype unconditionally larger, smaller, faster, slower, more or less different than another. The fitness of a trait can in many ways depend on the frequency in a population. For example, predators may tend to concentrate on the more common specimens of prey while ignoring the more unusual ones, thereby giving the latter an advantage. How the resulting selection works in this sort of case is affected by prey density, palatability, coloration, and conspicuousness. And when the prey density is very high, the effect may be reversed with predators preferentially removing rare prey. Moreover, most selective processes are frequency dependent, notes Lewontin. As a result, the usual practice of measuring the reproductive success of organisms with particular genotypes and particular environments tells us little, if anything. But on the other hand, it is hopeless to measure the net fitness of many genotypes in an immense array of different frequency combinations. By all accounts, reductions in fitness can occur at various points along an evolutionary lineage and can be essential turns in the pathway towards eventual higher fitness. How then do we evaluate supposedly harmful mutations at the time we observe them without knowing the further trajectory of the lineage? Perhaps more fundamentally, organisms and environments are at every moment reciprocally influencing each other. Organisms change their environment, and at the same time, this changing environment affects the fitness of the organism's traits, which when beavers dam a stream, they change their environment greatly. And at the same time, the deeper, quieter water differs from swift flowing water. In its significance, it gives the beavers swimming capacities, and to their relations with predators and so on. So the trait we are trying to assess in terms of its fitness in the existing environment is being given a different significance by an environment that itself being altered by the trait. Where do we begin our analysis? In Lewontin's summary, he says, what is required is an experimental program of unpacking fitness. This involves determining experimentally how different genotypes juxtapose different aspects of the external world, how they alter that world, and how those different environments that they construct affect their own biological processes and the biological processes of others. I doubt rather anyone has even pretended to do this unpacking in a way adequate to demonstrate the randomness of mutations relative to fitness. I'm very much enjoying reading this out loud. We'll go to the next chapter there. In fitness and I'm going to struggle with that word. I can already tell you, obscure concept.